All right. Hello and welcome to the Engineer Your Success, Leadership, and Life Harmony Like a Mother show. I'm your host, Kenya Romanovska, award-winning investigative journalist turned maternity leave and working motherhood strategist. I'm a mom of two little rambunctious boys, and today I have a firecracker of a guest. We want to make sure that you don't feel alone with the overwhelm of juggling family and career trajectories. We want to make sure you thrive, that you're supported by a community of women who understand you, being often the only woman in the room doing what you do, and then having, a baby dropped in your lap and no success manual. So we're here to give you the best guest and experts and tips on how to navigate it all. And so my guest, Mary Bicknell, CEO of See the Signs, is here with me today. I don't know if anything's changed in terms of naming, but I will let you introduce your being bold statement and what we're going to be talking about today.
Awesome. And this is my favorite topic. So thanks for having me. This is what I love talking about, is really having women be bold and be empowered. So I am a business consultant. I'm a business coach. I'm a mindset and success expert for women who are in that transition or who want to really, I want to say, get it all together, get out of mediocre, get out of average. And you want to be the best in your business and the best mom, of course, and best wife, mother, lover, and all the things, right? So that's really what I know we're going to be talking about today. I've had my online company called See the Signs for over 8 years. I'm a clinical social worker. So and really, I think the biggest thing is I'm a trained cognitive behaviorist. So I'm a big believer in what you think about, you bring about. So we'll talk a little bit about that today.
Awesome. And we bring a lot of that business perspective to moms who are often in male-dominated corporate competitive
100%.
fields, right? So everything you're talking about training business owners is very applicable to women who want to take ownership in their lives.
Of course.
It's ownership, accountability, design, right? So connecting with your listeners.
Yes. In fact, being the acronym BOLD is being a brave, outgoing leader, I call it deciding to lead a life uncommon, which is the name of my podcast, Lead a Life Uncommon. And I've had many a client that are in male-dominated industries. I've spoken on stages at female engineer, women in construction, women in trucking. And the topic, which I'm happy to talk about today as well, is called Shake Feeling Like a Fake, Fraud, or Imposter. And a lot of times we have that when we're in this male-dominated fields.
Yeah.
Like, who are we? Are we good enough? Not to mention all the patriarchy and all that. We can go there too. Right. So this is my zone. I love it.
You know what? So let's dive in. It's true. I've had conversations in the last few weeks. Often, women will be the only ones in the room, and we talk about the special gifts and perspective they bring. And at some point, some of them are shut down so many times that they stop raising their hand and they start thinking they're crazy for bringing up what they bring. And I say, no, you are the canary in the coal mine. Your perspective matters. We need your voice at the table. You are speaking up for so many women who count on you to, build more sustainable energy structures, build a better world for our children. So don't you dare shut down. We need your voice. So how can we encourage women who are tired, who have something valuable to say, whose voices are needed, but they just need that extra push to believe in themselves, that their voice really does matter?
That is such the most powerful question. And it's the heart question, right? It's the soul work. I feel like that I'm here to do is to inspire all of the listeners, right? To actualize this. Here's part of it. One is I believe so strongly that we have to be in reality that it's not always easy. And that's not taking it to the nth degree of this is so hard and oh my God. You have to just be in truth that there are some circumstances when we're in these male dominated industries or wherever we're at the seat of the table, that yes, sometimes it is going to be hard. Why? Because we are conditioned and socialized as women for several things. Number one is don't raise your hand. There's studies that are prove that when women raise their hand, immediately there's the perspective of somehow there's a dislike because we're not taught to be leaders. When we speak up, what we're taught is that, oh, be nice. Don't say it like that. Not to mention, like, who do you think you are? This is the man's world and all that BS. And so I think the very first thing that we have to recognize is that, yes, it's a challenge. Okay, now then we can take the breath.
Yeah.
And we can honor saying, even though we know it's a challenge, my voice matters. My different perspective matters, that I'm choosing to lead the way for myself and for the generations of women to come. And then I'm willing to stand on the shoulders of women who have gone before me. Oh, I just have chills. This stuff chokes me up so bad. We have to remember that even though it's a challenge, we're still living in the best time and opportunity for women in history. And that women have had to have their blood, sweat, and tears to give us the opportunity to even question, should we raise our freaking hand? So the answer is yes, raise your hand. So that's part of it. And the truth is, there is research that does look at that, you're going to get pushback.
Yep.
You're going to get pushback.
Yeah, I just talked about that behind the scenes. So some of these playing big principles, at least that's what's helping me through the challenges, because right now I'm kind of in the thick of taking like big leaps in my business.
Yeah.
And it's expecting that when you grow, expect chaos. And so at least I'm not surprised by it as much as I would have a couple of years ago when I didn't know that, right? When you're going to take a stand, like, think you're going to get pushback here. Some people are not going to like it. You might not even like the new you that's emerging, and you have to grow into that person, right? And I love with the moms, sometimes in really discouraging moments, I think about, tell them about their fields and then say, what problem do you want to solve so that your child leads a better life, right? Like what's the things that you want to move forward, that vision and that legacy building for their child as a working mom. Do you want to talk more about being bold?
Yes. So, it takes bravery. So BOLD, the acronym, write this down, is being a brave, outgoing leader deciding. So you decide that you want to leave a legacy. You decide that you want to lead a life uncommon. You decide that you want to be the example for your children. I just did a post the other day. It was something like, my motivation is my daughter, River. She's now 15, but I've had a business since she was little. So, and I've always been the hands-on mom. That was a priority for me, not to just be, build a massive business, an incredibly successful company, but also like I've been the Daisies to Brownie to Girl Scout. I was the homeroom mom for every single one until she, now of course she's in high school. So we don't do that, but it's like, you have to recognize that it takes bravery. It takes being outgoing. Now I have a strong personality, so it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be loud and like this, because strength comes from having your convictions, having your core values, and the outgoing piece of it is being willing to speak about them. Being the leader, the brave, right? Outgoing leader, part of it is being willing to plant your flag in the sand for whatever that topic might be. And of course you have to decide, like the decision-making process, like decide now that you're willing to do it. Then the decision is made, and then So one of the things that I want to encourage when we think about being brave and really having courage, the truth of the matter is, one of the things I like to talk about is the 5 blind spots that impact women. The number one is the fear of judgment. And so this is about sitting at the table, not raising your hand, because we have the fear of judgment. What are other people going to think? What if I say it wrong? What if I don't know everything? Men, on the other hand, they're willing to raise their hand. They're willing to BS their way into, I'll figure it out. We don't do that. We overthink it. We over worry about it. We want to have all the T's crossed and all the I's dotted. Meanwhile, Bob over there is raising his hand and talking about stuff that it's probably in your mind and your thoughts already. So having the courage to be wrong, having the courage for somebody to because look, this is the truth. You've already been judged, my friends, your whole freaking life. Let's just be in honesty. There's people out there looking at you right now, or me, and they're like, that Mary Bicknell, she cusses sometimes. I don't care. Let them go on their merry way. Once you start recognizing what your core values are, what your belief is, what you're willing to stand for, and then you're brave enough and outgoing enough to speak it, and then you can release some of the worry of judgment, because you are in truth that you're already being judged. So isn't it better to be judged for something you believe in than being judged around your fear of what maybe somebody else would think? That is really the core mindset, mental thought work that I coach my clients through. What are your thoughts about that?
Like, you're speaking my language: vision, values, conviction, core values. I had interesting stuff happening in the last week. Went back. What are my core values? Faith, love, accountability.
Yeah.
What is my role in the situation? How did I co-create what happened? Right? Where
Yes.
do I need to forgive myself because I didn't know, or I need to learn something? Right? So the accountability piece. And then faith: when things get really tough, I look up on my vision and I'm like, okay, am I moving in this direction? Is this a season where I have to go through these challenges so that it shapes the next version of who I am, the leader I am?
Yes.
So we talked. And conviction. This one is an interesting one. I'm still grappling with it. I have convictions about, okay, I'll say it, about moms and how we can co-create our own misery. Like, we
Yeah.
can, right? And I'm still shy about speaking that truth because there is so much in social media that just points out about how miserable moms can be. My social media is full of like exhausted, tired moms, and that is a reality for many. But when did this become the mainstream in my feed, or how we talk about motherhood? Like, how did we get there? It's kind of scary, right? So I want moms to recognize that there is some co-ownership there, that maybe you didn't know about certain things because you were told you could have it all and, have that career and family and you're going to live happily ever after. But the reality is those first years are an adjustment, and it's up to us to ask for help. It's up to us to define what matters to us. It's up to us
Yes.
to acknowledge that identity. And I still have a hard time speaking the truth sometimes because I have compassion for the women who are in really, really tough situations, physically, mentally, emotionally, in a pandemic. But at the same time, my conviction is that, like, we have to do something about it, right? We just can't wallow in this.
Okay. Okay. Totally this. So, I remember I'm also a clinician. So I became a clinical social worker. I love people. I want to help them. And yet, here's the truth. After a minute, I'm like, get over your bullshit.
Yeah, that leads into the BS, right? Eliminating the mental
Well,
BS.
BS also stands for your mental blind spot. So it's kind of a double entendre, right? Your bullshit and your blind spots. So here's the thing. I'm not in this. I'm not in denial about the challenges that come with motherhood of all ages, being in the workforce with men. Here's your only two options. You can either surround yourself and get mired in the the victimhood of it, or you can shed it and make a decision that you are not going to, and it's work. I'm not disputing that. You're not going to fall prey to that. You're not going to have a clutch of commiserating women in your life. It's not that we don't want to share our strife. So this is not about not ever sharing it. There's a difference between, oh my God, I had a hard day and, my child got sick, or it's COVID and I'm not sure how I'm going to keep my career going when, I just delivered twins or whatever the thing. So, but here's the thing. Some of these are your choices. Stop offloading your power and your responsibility around your choices. That's not saying that it's not challenging. Of course it is. It's a difference between saying things like, wow, this is a challenging season in my life and I'm going to be present and love let's just use twins, right? I'm going to love these twins and I'm going to let go and release the stress of the day so I can be present. And man, I'm tired today. And this is a choice and I'm loving this moment because this will not last forever. That is completely honoring somebody's emotional state and their state of being and their reality, while also not commiserating. Let go of all your commiserating friends. I have to tell you, here's the truth. I had two peer masterminds, these group of highly brilliant, highly educated, highly intelligent women who are business owners. And all of a sudden they were like bitching all the time, like, and these clients, I was like, I can't listen to this. I had to let them go. I was like, I'm out. I literally don't have the energy to listen. So this is one of the things. Are you around people that are giving you energy, or are you around people who leak out and leech your energy? I could just go talk about this forever.
Well, let's dive a bit deeper. These are some uncomfortable truths.
Yeah.
There's one mentor. I was revisiting the concepts of accountability. So there's this international drama researcher. I got to do a workshop with my husband on it. Apparently research shows that people spend on average 2.5 hours per day on drama, moaning, complaining, whining, having stories in their heads about situations, right? And when I caught myself in that and did her evaluation on emotional expensiveness, it was like, ouch. And for most people, it is. We think we can be high performers and feel like we're supremely accountable, but it's so easy to get sucked in that drama.
Well, it's a couple things, right? As a cognitive behaviorist, it's like what you think about, you bring about. And here's the deal. Most people are unwilling. Here's the truth. Most people are unwilling to do the work of transforming and changing their thinking. So if we look at, there's a situation that frequently, so I use what I call the results formula. And what it does is it helps us look at like, what's a current situation? And is that factual or is that in your brain? So it could be like, I have 2 children. That's factual. The thought could be like these 2, I'm so exhausted. And then that exhaustion, that thought of like, I'm so exhausted with these 2 kids creates the emotional state of like despondency or, just being pissy. And then behaviorally, what's going to happen? You're probably not going to be highly engaged with your kids. And they're going to be, and the result is probably you're not very happy with your situation. As opposed to the situation, I have these 2 kids. My thought could be, oh my God, I love these 2 kids. And this is a moment in my life. So my point is that, and this is why I still do this results formula every single day, is we have to be just as rigorous with our minds and our thoughts as we are with, like, think about it. You're not going to give your kid a bottle of Mountain Dew. Why not? Well, first of all, there's many reasons, but it's like, so you're rigorous around like, how are you taking care of your child? Are you as rigorous with your own mental health, your own emotional state? How do you catch yourself? Like, so sometimes I even say to clients, number 1 is like, remove social media off your phone. Number 2 is have a Post-it somewhere where it's helping people create a new belief, a new thought. And maybe have your phone go off every hour so you can stop yourself and ask yourself, holy shit, what the hell was I just thinking? And then start looking at your friends. Do you look forward to it? Are you like, oh God, right? At the water cooler at your job, we're all like, everybody's just waiting for Friday. I can't wait till Friday. Like, that's not the way to live. But this is a choice that you're making to be mired in that. So I agree what you're saying. 2.5 hours a day, that's atrocious.
It is atrocious. It is atrocious, right? And the thing is, people think that whenever I talk about venting and bring it up for the first time, and I did in workshops, we were like, ugh, but venting feels so good. Like, you need to vent, you need to get it off your chest, right? And when we start diving more deeply, I have tons of clients who read the book. It's called No Ego, and a couple more. Like, you realize how costly that is. Think about how that adds up over the days and the years and days lost to being stuck in that complaining mindset, right? Yes. So what are the first reactions? If there are 2 things I want to talk about, those habits. I have a couple of internal talking practices. I put lipstick on my mirror and remind myself of, there was a chapter of forgiveness. There was like rewire the brain, take control of the software, right? Command the brain, like decide what I'm going to think. I have it on my windows too. It's everywhere.
That's awesome. I love that.
But how do people react when they're confronted with the idea of their own BS and blind spots at first? What's the typical pattern and breakthrough pattern that you see?
Well, one of the 5 blind spots are fear of judgment, fear of success, fear of failure, delusional denial, and people-pleasing poison drinkers, right? And so what happens? Yeah. So sometimes what happens is people fall into first of all, a lot of people are in denial. Right? They're in what I call delusional denial. Like, how's everything? Fine, fine, fine. And inside they're just like beating themselves up. They're bitching in their own head, but they're in denial. So back to what you were saying about venting. This is not, again, about denying what's happening. There's a difference between denying the reality. Like, right now it's a season of my life and it's a little challenging. And sometimes we need to talk about that. This is not about denying your emotional state. There's a difference between acknowledging where you are and moving forward than living in that state, because what you think about, you bring about. So the more you're mired in that bitching state, that venting, and then Sally, your friend over here, and then, Cindy over here, and we're all venting. And the more we think about it, the more we can come up with all these reasons to vent. That's a problem. So it's not about not acknowledging, like, God, I had a hard day, or my dog just died, or like this plant, Bob took my idea at work. Shit, I wish I would have like stood up and said something. So it's not about not acknowledging it. It's about like now, it's the now what, right?
Yeah.
It's the now, what do I do with that?
Yeah.
And so that's the work that most people don't do. That's the work. So it's about being able to sit down and say, did I contribute to this? What was the result? How can I reverse engineer the result that I have? What was the behavior that landed that result? What was the emotion that landed that me doing that behavior, that inaction or not, right? That inaction or action. What was I thinking? Sometimes let's take this out of the business, the business space. I mean, think about it. If your result is that you want is to be a marathon runner, what is the behavior you have to do? You probably have to start running, get off the sofa, right? What's the thought that you have to have, or excuse me, what's the emotion? You have to be inspired to get out. You have to be committed. You have to be excited. What's the thought? Oh my God, I'm going to be a marathon runner. I can't wait to see that ribbon thing hanging in my wall. So sometimes we can reverse engineer things. So if your result right now is all my friends and I are complaining all the time, what's the behavior? Maybe you need to shift friends. Maybe you shouldn't go out on Friday night and with them anymore. You have to start really being rigorous and not denying what part you're playing.
Absolutely. Yep. That's such an important conversation to have, because we don't want to slip into toxic positivity.
Right. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Right.
No, it's acknowledging the state and then being able to move forward. That is critical, and not staying stuck and wallowing. So, how to stop living in average, mediocre, and being common? It's time to be bold enough to lead a life on common. Tell us about where that comes from. Why?
So this is exactly the point. The average person, here's the truth. The average, first of all, we didn't grow up as little girls. And I actually have, I'm going to pull this picture off because I have two photos. Actually, these are on my cork board, which is right over here. So I know that listening, you can't hear it, but visually, I have a picture of my daughter and a picture of myself. As a little girl, I didn't grow up going, I want to have an average life. Remember those times when we were young and we were just full of expectation and we can achieve all the things, and then life got us. Somebody was like, don't get too excited. Don't be too don't be too much. And we're indoctrinated as women to don't speak up. Don't raise your hand. All these things we're indoctrinated to minimize and limit who we are and be cattle, be the herd, i.e. average, for example, average. You have to decide, do you want average or do you want something that's uncommon? And the uncommon, to make that decision to go there, is not necessarily easy, because you're going to be thrown out of the tribe. Your sister is going to be like, who do you think you are that you want to have blah, blah, blah? Or what do you mean you're not going to get married? Or you can't have kids by yourself? Or all of these things that the average person is going to try and vomit on you out of their goodwill to try and keep you safe. And so one is really acknowledging the challenge of leadership is not always easy, but being a leader in your life is a necessity. What are you thinking of that?
It brings up so much. This is a year of leadership growth for me. I am still processing a lot of things. I like to process them before bringing them up, but I went for it this year. 2022 is my year to grow. Last year, I lost 3 relatives, including my dad. It was a year of grief, sadness, yet I did quite well in my business. Surprisingly, I don't know, maybe it's post-traumatic growth. And now I've stepped up, I built up my team. I'm going to go out there even more in the world. And of course, there's a bunch of stuff that comes up and my own skills limitations and leadership. There are things I've never done before. I mean, that happens at every stage of the entrepreneurial journey. But when you throw a lot of new humans into the mix, it just challenges you on, and And I can't beat myself up when I'm honest. I'm like, this is the first time I'm doing XYZ thing. I
Yeah.
have to develop the leadership skills.
And that's the difference. When you start knowing that, when you can give yourself grace and compassion to say, you're first of all healing from grief or different things, challenges, right? And when you can allow yourself to acknowledge something new is going to bring up stuff. No matter, let me tell you, no matter how much money I've spent on therapists and coaches, how successful my business is, every new level, I'm like, I get kind of triggered again.
Yeah.
And this is why you have to do the rigorous mindset and thought work. When you start recognizing what your triggers are, then you have power and you can create a plan. So for example, I believe that there's 4 triggers that trigger us right into this BS, those blind spots. So some of those triggers are a physical trigger. So maybe it's hormonal changes, like literally, right? Yeah. That when you know, guess what? Oh my God, whether it's menopause, my friends, like, hello, or it's just having that baby, right? And we have these hormonal changes. When you can even have the thought, I'm going through a lot right now because I just had a baby, or I'm experiencing grief, and it literally is changing my hormones and the chemicals in my brain. It gives you power. That's a trigger. So you might be more triggered to be extra sensitive around fear of judgment. When you can start recognizing your personal triggers, so emotions, hormones, a physical trigger, an emotional trigger, a concrete trigger, a thought trigger. When you can start recognizing that some of these triggers will kick in some of these blind spots, then you can start building for yourself a plan of action. So it might be, I'm getting ready to do this new job, or I'm getting ready to have this baby. I know that when I have a new baby, I'm going to be triggered around, my hormones are going to be triggering me. I think I might be extra sensitive. So how can I build into place support for myself? Oh, I'm getting this new promotion. Oh my gosh, there's so many new things I've never done before. How can I remind myself that I can figure them out? Because all your conditioning and all your stuff is going to come up. But what's your options, right? Let's back up a minute and say, like, I'm a believer, if you don't evolve, it's death. And it is death also, because as you evolve, the death of who you were you have to let that go, so that your evolved self is the woman that's leading.
I agree with that. And in terms of the tools I use, I have some principles on the wall. One of them is always make a decision from a place of hope for what could be and not fear what could go wrong.
Exactly.
It's a process. It's been hanging there for months now. Curiosity, respond to challenges with curiosity, with opportunity. It's training. It's training. Yes. Last year was forgiveness. This year is moving beyond fear. Not licking my wounds for too long, right? After there's a quote unquote setback or something that really took me aback. It's just like, okay, have my good cry, acknowledge how I'm feeling, work through it. And then just, all right, let's keep going. Let's keep moving. Let's stay focused on the goals. Those were the big game changers for me. I don't know if there are others that you want to highlight, but the hope piece is that constant brain pattern of what is the opportunity? What's the good thing that could happen? What can I learn from this? What can I, how can this move me forward? That's when I really like in this season of my life.
I don't always use the word hope. I use the word expectancy. I live from a place of expecting that it will all work out. From the place of expecting, of course, I will figure it out. I've proven that. And so one of the things that we need to do is look to places where you've proven that to yourself, so that your brain has confirmation bias to your ability to follow through, right? Instead of from that fear place where your brain will seek out, that primal brain, primitive part of your brain will seek out confirmation bias on all the million reasons why this is not going to work, and you're never going to get that promotion, and you're going to be the worst mom ever, and hopefully you don't, drop your kid one day, and all the things. Because I always had that happen. One time we had a Prius at one time, and I put River, my daughter's name is River, who's 15 and a half now, and she's 5'11", taller than I am, and beautiful, and brilliant, all the things. I didn't know, because I was a new mom, and I I put her, I had her in my arm and I opened up the back hatch and I like got something out and I put the diaper bag over my shoulder, shut the hatch and put her on the hatchback, which is at an incline. And she started sliding and I was like, oh my God, I almost killed my kid. But anyhow, we all have these moments, right? So I don't know why I went off on that. It was just really when I said, harm your child. We have to have these moments, right? Where we make the decision that I like my level of expectancy. I expect success in my life. Do I also know that I'm going to get triggered, that I have to be mindful of? Here's the truth. I recently almost so sabotaged my entire business. Why? Because I hit this new level of success. And oh my gosh, it unconsciously triggered so many different things. I had to be vigilant around my thinking around it. Am I worthy? Can I do it? Oh my God, what is it? Like all the things. It's no different than we have to be mindful. Like I was telling somebody earlier today, actually, like when I was losing weight and I would hit this number 3 times, I hit this number and gained it back. And I'm like, what's with that number that's triggering me to undermine myself? So here's my point. You have to have this sense of expectancy that you will figure it out, that the goals that you want will happen because you're that kind of woman. And then you have to be in a place of grace and curiosity about, where's your brain going to try and screw it all up? And then give yourself a break because we're busy and we're bombarded and life is hard sometimes. And it's okay to say that.
100%. I love it. Everything I always wrote down that I wanted came true. So when I hit all those goals, they came true. It was time to dream much bigger. And now it's having more patience. They're longer term goals. And so enjoying the journey is a big piece. River. So I love asking the question, what will your kids say about you in 25 years? Right. So I asked you that. It's a big one. It's a starting point for my journey with my clients is we really have a comprehensive view of when your kids grow up, because when you have these tiny beings and it's just, you think what legacy are you building? So going in 25 years, some people don't like that question, but I love it. And
I love that question.
So what is she going to say about you? I think you had a son too. I don't know if you.
No, I just have just one child. Actually, I have a stepdaughter from a previous marriage that I'm still very close to because I raised her. I have John has a daughter, but my daughter River, I'll speak directly about her. In 25 years, I hope to be alive in 25 years. In 25 years, she will say that I was the kind of woman who made decisions and followed through, and that I was kind and loving and generous. I love that question because it's not dissimilar to the question or to the statement my husband and I, the pact, the pinky swear that we had when we were pregnant, that the definition of success for us as a parent is that our child will want to see us. So in 25 years, my goal and my hope and my desire is that our daughter is coming to see us because she chooses to, because she's delighted at our relationship. Oh, I got chills. It's going to make me cry. I'm not close to my mother, and that's horrible and it's sad. And it was probably the best gift because it's allowed me to be what I believe is it was a helpful tool for me to be even a better mother. And so that I know without a shadow of a doubt that I'm creating and have created the kind of relationship that in 25 years, my daughter will seek out my wisdom and seek out our relationship and be proud of me and be appreciative of how I pushed her and encouraged her and taught her how to go for it in the face of challenge.
Love it. Beautiful. What a beautiful way to wrap up our conversation. Mary, where can people find more of you?
Yes, thank you. So you can always listen to my podcast called Lead a Life Uncommon. It's on all the platforms. I also have something I'm going to share with everyone. It's the Fear Breakthrough Formula. I didn't speak about that yet today. That's okay. The Fear Breakthrough Formula, it will help you think a little bit different, including the expectancy of what you have around fear. And that's at marybicknell.com/gifts with an S, GIFTS. That's the best place. And of course, I'm on all the social like we all are.
Yes, absolutely. And for those of you who are listening to us, if you love this conversation, if you know a mom or a dad or a friend, anyone who needs to hear this, please share this podcast episode. Please say in the comments that you've been listening to us, what you got out of this. Leave us a review. We can reach more humans this way who need this important message. We need your talents. We need you to speak up for what you believe in, especially as a mother. My core belief is that you bring important messages to the table. I want you to design a world that's more mom friendly, right? So thank you so much for tuning in today. Mary, I will see you backstage in just a moment.
Yes. Bye, everybody.
Thanks.